Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. What we'll be doing today is staying in front of your customers with research. I'm so glad you're in the audience. We have a packed room. I was trying to welcome you all by doing a little chat. I look forward to your questions in the question box that you see. And I'm looking forward to presenting to you. So let's get the show on the road, shall we? This is an AIA approved course. We have some architects and designers in the audience today, mixed up with professionals. You'll see the variety of people we have today. And we encourage you to get these credits because it's a fully accredited course. It's also accredited by the NKBA, which is the Kitchen Bath Association. It's copyrighted by Interline Group. However, after the presentation, if you'd like, I can definitely PDF you this presentation for your reference, but I encourage you to take copious notes and ask questions. This program will discuss how architects, designers, and the other professionals in the audience can get a better understanding of the market today. And ladies and gentlemen, who among us has an understanding of the market today? Anybody that tells you they understand the market today, you better step back and take a closer look. Because I'm telling you right now, no one does. But research, the techniques we're going to talk about today, can help you get your arms around this crazy world we live in. So we're going to discover about how research can, in fact, do this in a COVID, post-COVID, pre-COVID, whatever you want to call it, landscape, and formulate insights into how to approach your customers. We're going to review business basics, research basics, learn how research provides insight about your customers. And ladies and gentlemen, there's Patty Flighter getting coffee in our office. Hi, Patty. She's our research director. She's the brains behind this presentation. And we're going to examine RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value. And we're going to evaluate research findings and how to use that to go to market. I like to start a story in any of my presentations, and I know some of you are return people, and I welcome you back. And this story is about bananas. Do you know your bananas? We keep fruit in our office in a bowl. We've done that since 30 years ago when we started. And I always tell the people here, when you do not see fruit in the bowl, then you'll have something to worry about in the business. We're just a small company. Our high point was 25 people. Now we're down to about 10. But we keep fruit on the table. So I picked up bananas on the way to work one day. And there's this guy on my right. This is the stand, the actual stand where I buy my bananas. And you can see two signs there. One says 59 cents and one is blank. And the guy on the right is picking up a bunch, looking at it carefully, putting it back, reaching for another bunch. And I know if you've ever shopped for a fruit, you see people doing that. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because Jim Nowakowski, as you should all be, is on the ongoing research path. You should be researching from the moment you wake up to the moment you pass out. And even then, your dreams will tell you some things that are interesting in research, but that's another story. So the guy's picking up these bunches, looking at them, putting them back. And I've got my two bunches, I want three. I see one in front of him and I say, pardon me. I reach for that bunch and he looks at me like I was intruding on his space and he says, are these all the same price? Now I'm sharing this story with you because there's pricing elements in here, there's branding elements in this story, and it's a research story. And I said, yep, they're all 59 cents. He says, well, there's no sign there. You see, there's a blank sign. I said, it doesn't matter. They're all 59 cents. And he says, then why are there two different labels on these bananas? If you look closely, you can't see it in this picture, but some are Chiquita bananas and some are another brand of bananas. In fact, there's probably a third brand mixed in there someplace. And I said, that's a good question. I said, but I assure you, they are all the same price, 59 cents. And he said, are they organic? I said, nope, organic are on the other side. They're banded together because the proprietor of the store doesn't want you mixing in organic bananas with regular bananas, although if they come from the ground, my respectful suggestion is that they're organic. And they're a little more expensive. Those are 99 cents a pound. He said, it sounds like you know your bananas. And I laughed, and then I said, well, they're nature's perfect fruit. And there was a guy on the other side by the organic side. He says, well, what about the egg? And I said, every vitamin known to man. It was a brief moment in time. But what you see here is an example of what research can do. And you're going to say, what the hell are you talking about, Jim? Well, pricing. Most manufacturers and people in the audience, service people like architects and audience, worry about pricing. And what you're looking at here is, Chiquita would like to demand the higher price, perhaps 61 cents a pound, whatever. But they're bunched in with all the other brands at 59 cents a pound because most people are buying bananas as a commodity product at 59 cents a pound. Well, some will buy organic, of course. But what is the true difference? You have to know your bananas. There's also a branding lesson here in research. Most brands do everything they can to differentiate their brand. And when they differentiate their brand, what they try to do is really talk about it in a different way. But the last thing you want to do with your architectural service, with your manufacturing product service, is become a commodity. But unfortunately, that's where the world is going, especially after COVID. We're going to share some insights with you on that in a moment. But you have to be researching everything. This is a pre-COVID shot in one of the high-end motels in Las Vegas that I used to start this. You see all those rocks behind those things? That's an interesting story. Sisyphus in Las Vegas. If you Google that, you can read about it. This presentation is really likes to introduce a man named David Ogilvy. If I took a poll, I don't know how many people in the audience, there's about 40, 50 people in the audience will know David Ogilvy. I'm sure some people will. That's what statistics tell us. But David Ogilvy started one of the most famous advertising agencies in the world, and his secret weapon was direct response and or research. And David said, if you're going to try to persuade people to do something, to buy something, it seems to him that you should use their language, the language that they use every day, and the language in which they think. So they try to write in the vernacular. Now, this is more true today than ever before because there's a lot of words we've learned since COVID, isn't there? Lots of words. Look at the Delphi variant. I mean, just think about those. The surge before the COVID. I don't think that there was ever a word in our vocabulary. And so, the English language is one of these great languages that steal from other languages. So you always have to try to define your terms, and research is no different. Some of the other things David said, and by the way, that's one of his most famous ads. Of course, it's older, and you're going to say, Jim, why are you showing me old ads? Well, because they're still relevant. This headline is a long headline. There's a big debate between long and short copy, but he wrote, at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in the new Rolls Royce comes from an electric clock. I remember reading that ad and knowing I'll never own a Rolls Royce, but he delineated the Rolls by that headline. So people who ignore research are as dangerous as generals who ignore decodes of the enemy signals. You should be testing all the time. Testing your messages, testing by talking to people, testing by when you telephone people, testing by the messages you leave on the left word to call when you're leaving voicemails. Because your role, ladies and gentlemen, is to sell. Not let anything distract you from that's the sole purpose of business. Well, wait a minute, Jim. I'm an architect. I design great buildings. Wait a minute, Jim. I'm a manufacturer. I make great products. Yeah. But guess what? If you don't sell any of them, who cares? And COVID did a strange thing to the world, didn't it? It made everybody afraid, right? Everybody got locked down. Everybody stopped buying things except digitally. And we can talk about that at another time. But the sole purpose of business, virus or not, is to sell something. So on average, 5 times as many people will read your headline as read the body copy. That alone is worth the price of admission, which was free for this webinar, right? Your headline is most important. What does that mean? When you're doing email, your subject line is the most important thing. It's like a headline. The headlines on your website that delineate your body copy from your website, delineate your pages, are the most people read those things. And then if it interests them, they keep reading. If it doesn't, they flip the page. So for every buck, you're spending 80 cents on writing your headlines. So did you ever notice how everyone had COVID messages up on their website and still do? What good? That's not selling anything except what? They're trying to sell the idea of safety. So let me ask you a question. If everybody feels so safe, why is this still going on? Seriously, business is about selling things. You cannot let anything, including a virus, stand in your way. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sympathetic. Our business suffered, your business suffered. You know who didn't suffer? People who make plastic, right? These people were busy 24/7. If they could get the 25th hour, they'd be producing these plastic because everybody wanted protection. Business basics are really how many customers did you have before? How many do you have now? How many do you want? How many can you handle? Research can help you drive these answers. These are important questions. I do not expect you to answer them today. But you should understand these questions because COVID changed everything. Before COVID, I would ask these questions, and all my webinars ask the same questions, business basics. And I would say, how many do you want? Some guy in the audience would say, is it, as many as I can get, which is the wrong answer. You want as many as you can handle. You get too many, that's not good. Marcus Aurelius was a smart guy. He said, ask yourself every moment, ladies and gentlemen, every moment, is what you're doing necessary to sell your products? Wait a minute, Jim, what about golf? I want to go golfing. Fine. Is that necessary to sell your products? Some people will say, I do a lot of business on the golf course, and my hat's off to you. That's great. I've never golfed in my life, and I'm still in business after 30 years. It really depends on your business and what you're using the activity for. Is it necessary? Because your job is to eliminate the unnecessary. So what is research? Research is something, I like to call it feedback, right? It's feedback. It's whatever you do, you're getting feedback. You got this ongoing sender-receiver thing going with messages. Right now, I'm looking at my dashboard while I'm talking to you. I'm standing up, can you tell? I'm very engaged. And every now and then I'll glance at the dashboard, and GoToWebinars gives me this dashboard that tells me if people are paying attention or not. I don't believe dashboards. You know why? Because even when people are paying attention, they could be doing something else, and I can't see you. But I do know that if I'm giving you my 100% all, I really hope you're listening, because I'm trying to engage you and tell you some of the tricks of the trade that we learn. But research is about finding an advance about a method, about a behavior of a product. How should you position the product? What should you say about the product? Who should you sell the product to? Is there something waiting in the weeds for you to attack your product that you don't know about? So in other words, you really want to be open to everything. You cannot have, this is very difficult, you cannot have a preconceived notion. If you have a preconceived notion, guess what? Your research will fulfill that notion. It's called what? What do you call that, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy. I think I really suck at baseball, right? And then you'll go on and you will be a terrible baseball player because it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you do true research, you have to erase everything from your mind. John Locke said it better than I did. Your mind is like a blackboard. You have to erase your blackboard and write on your blackboard what you want on there, not what other people want. And that's what you need when you go to do research, is you need a blank blackboard. You can have a thesis, you can have a premise, you can have yada, 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 but you really want that blackboard. You cannot have well, I think it's going to be like this. I think they're going to prefer this color. You can't have that. And if everyone's talking about the virus, ladies and gentlemen, you have to change the conversation. You do. They're not going to change the conversation. They're not going to tell you, oh, let's stop talking about the virus and talk about what you want to talk about. You have to somehow do it. And you do it by overlaying data, understanding, and then really, really addressing a fact besides the fear that people feel. Research seeks to remove Uncertainty. Now, how the heck do you do that? How do you do that? Because uncertainty, we're not math formulas, ladies and gentlemen. We are not. If this webinar would be useless if we were math formulas, because every time 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. People are not math formulas. Dostoevsky said that. We're not math formulas. Because we're not math formulas, we have to continually experiment because the formulas change. John Castiglione, one of my friends and great speakers on pricing, said one time it's like Chinese baseball. They have the same rules as American baseball, except they move the bases all the time. Right? It's uncertain. So you continually to do research, and you should never ever stop researching. Like here's a house survey about hiring professionals, right? 39%, 38%. Here's a later survey, 87%. Right? Do you believe these statistics? What about happened after COVID? We all know remodeling is through the roof, or that's what they say. Many people feel, because they were locked down, have to remodel their homes. We see construction activity, but as architects and designers and other professionals, we ask ourselves, what happened? You know what happened too? As a result of COVID, the supply chains, right? The supply chains have been disrupted. Let me give you some inspiration, not from me, but from people better than me. Jim Lovell, you know who he was, Apollo 13 guy. There are 3 kinds of people in the world. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what happened. Which one are you? Which one should you be? If you're in business, you have to be the person that makes things happen. But wait. Jim Lovell's not the only guy who said it. Machiavelli said this. Niccolo Machiavelli. There are 3 kinds of brains. One understands unassisted, the other understands shown by others, and the 3rd kind understands neither alone or with others' explanations. First kind's excellent, second's good, and the 3rd is useless. Same thing, but look how long ago he said that. Ladies and gentlemen, we think things change. We think, oh my God, this has never happened to us with this virus. All you have to do is study history. All you have to do is understand the past to understand the present. If you don't understand the past, you're going to repeat the problems of the past. Another way to put it is Michael Crichton. If someone tries to kill you, you don't have the option of averting your eyes or changing the subject. You're forced to deal with the person's behavior. The experience is, in the end, a loss of illusions. The world is not how you want it to be, ladies and gentlemen. The world is how it is. When they were burning all those cities last summer, right? Those poor retailers, those unbelievable, the restaurants who suffered greatly under these lockdowns. That was destroying all the illusions. We should always take heart in that, because guess what? You're one step away from someone doing that to your business and our business. Seriously. So we have to understand that. And the question is the virus trying to kill us, or is it the reaction to the virus that is trying to kill us? Research is a secret weapon of marketers all around the world. And the virus is not changing that. But if you really want to understand research, did you study the research that was going on with the virus and how accurate that was? I'm joking. It was not accurate. They changed their opinion every day about these models, right? What is a model? Who modeled it? They're trying to make a mathematical model on a research that's not on a virus. If you're not a math formula, do you think a virus is a math formula? Do you think anyone in the world has the right, has the knowledge, has the gift of predicting anything about a virus? They, wash your hands. My mother told me that when I was a kid. Did you wash your hands? That was the primary reason of doing this today, and stay away from people who are sick. Wait a minute, that's profound. You see what I'm saying? So you watch people, you listen to people, because they're listening to you. How do you react to the things going around you? How do you react to these things? How should you react to these things? Let me give you some keys. This is from the most recent research from our sister company for a few clients that we did, this year. I'm sharing this with you on a very confidential basis, but I think you'll get a lot out of it. Products and services are now all online. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the tenets of Interline has always been in every one of our CEUs that your website is the most important marketing tactic you have, your website. The COVID virus has proven that because everybody scrambled to be digital. And those who weren't digital are suffering still today. You have to be digital. The way you sell, how you present. Look at Zoom meetings. For heaven's sakes, Zoom meetings, Zoom was Zoom. Go to webinars was ahead, go to meetings was there. All these other platforms was there, and suddenly Zoom came in out of nowhere and swept everybody up because they made it easy for people to communicate. People love to communicate. Your market strategies are different. If you go through a channel, selling direct, selling through reps, everything requires different thinking. When they locked down things, reps could not get in to see the architects in the audience unless the architects let them into Zoom. Before COVID, you had a difficult time getting in to see professionals too because they would be inundated with solicitations, right? There's only 24 hours in the day. Does anyone have the 25th hour? I would love the 25th hour. I will pay you a lot of money for the 25th hour. You don't have it. Time is the currency. Time is your currency. That's why I said earlier, don't waste time. A recent Salesforce study pointed out that a positive customer experience is 91% more likely to make another active purchase. I was reading an article last night from a key source that talked about the customer experience and mapping that. What the hell does that mean? Mapping the customer experience. It means that it's not what you sell anymore that's important. It's the experience of the customer buying it. And guess what? You live in the age of the customer. You live in the age where the customer controls you. Controls you. Well, that's difficult for a manufacturer who, is your building good enough for my product? With that type of attitude, you think you control the world, but it's the customer who's controlling you. And if he can't find what he's looking for from you, guess what? He's going to go somewhere else. So the customer experience is very important. Answering the phone, and if you're in the service business and you get an automated tool to answer your phone, you'll be out of business shortly. I will give you 2 years. You have to have human contact. Human beings relate to human beings. Purchasing behavior has been forever altered by COVID-19, right? It's all digital. And making these transactions convenient is the key. Phone, text, email, it's all related. Safety and hygiene are primary motivations. I'm not saying safety isn't important. I'm just saying that safety shouldn't govern everything we do. In other words, let's live in bubbles, right? There's risk from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. You don't know what's going to happen. Does that mean you shelter yourself? Does that mean you don't take risks? Business people, in order to grow, have to take risks, calculated risks. So health is now a sustainability strategy. We used to talk about sustainability in buildings as a green thing, right? It's not. It's healthy buildings. Everybody wants to worry about health. They were worried about health before COVID. All COVID did is boom, shoot it through the top. And brand loyalty is redefined. McKinsey says 75% of Americans have changed brands during a pandemic. Do you think your clients have not considered changing from your services and your products during COVID? Do you think they didn't consider changing it before COVID? Of course, they're always considering it. You have to fight and let them know they can't change without experiencing severe pain. Direct to consumer is growing. Outside research says 1 in 4 consumers are making a shift going direct to the consumer products, which means the middleman, like an Amazon, who prospered greatly and still prospers greatly, might be cut out or might be used simply as a delivery service or as a purchasing service, right? That's another webinar we can have. The point of these keys to the puzzle are that you have to meet the consumer where and how they shop. And ladies and gentlemen, with respect, I'm proposing that each one of your customers that you have is doing it online. And if you don't make the convenience of doing it online important, and I'll tell you what, you know how you prove this? Do some research on your customers, like we're going to talk about. Research is everything. I'm not going to read all these things. You overcome fear by talking to people. You set the pace, or the pace is going to be set for you. You adapt, change, or disappear. This website this slide talks about many different things. Invisible shoppers. Go undercover. Go into a store and just listen, like I did with the banana store. He didn't know what I'm doing. If you get solicited on the phone, if I get solicited, all you have to do when you get those great telemarketers trying to get your opinion, just tell them you're in advertising and they'll hang up on you. They don't want to talk to any advertising people because advertising people know the dirty little secret that they're trying to find out the truth. But you can find out the truth, right? Measure everything. This is a snapshot of some of the blogs that we have on the Interline website. This blog, My Email Bounce, 7 Things to Do When You Lose a Pitch, which is one of the most popular blogs I've ever written, and that's written in 2018, has over 8,400 views. More than that, it's got over 10,000 views now. 10,000 views. People have read that. Well, Jim, that's not a lot. There's billions of people in the world. Hey, a lot is relative, isn't it? We're not math formulas. For a little company like us, 10,000 people reading that. Not only that, we have a code where I do reverse IP lookup. I know the companies who are reading that. You know who's reading that? Lawyers read that. Insurance agents read that. None of my markets, but they're certainly gaining from the information. And you have to become the leadership position. In the audience today, I have cabinet people, I have designers, I have manufacturers. There's even some government people out there. Government people. So here's some suggestions for you, whichever sector you're in. If you don't see your sector, I missed you because you had a Gmail or an AOL account, and I don't know what market you're in, but I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. So this market you're in gives you some things you can do to research. If you're a cabinet manufacturer, by the way, we work for the KCMA, which is the Cabinet Manufacturers of America. You know, it's the association of guys who make cabinets, right? We learn an awful lot by working for that association, but we still go out and we hang around these, DIY retailer stores and we listen to people. We listen to people. The difference between Home Depot and Lowe's is Home Depot now has a guy right there who knows the entire floor plan. So when you walk in and said, you know that stuff that they advertise, the seal rubber, aisle 6, fourth one down. He knows. He's Johnny on the spot. You go to Lowe's and you wait. You look for people. You see crickets. That's just one observation. That doesn't mean I'm condemning Lowe's or saying go shop at Home Depot. I'm telling you one observation I personally made. One of maybe a zillion. You can go to a Lowe's and you say, Jim, that's not my experience with Lowe's. Great. That's what research does. It engages you in a conversation to find out the truth. Don't you think Lowe's would want to know that? Seriously, there are secret shopper organizations out there that send in people to do what I just told you I did. And you should be doing it all the time. Any questions so far? Let's see, questions. No questions. I must be doing good. Even with the interruption? What you see at the top of your screen there is what Gensler did when COVID hit. Gensler started a dialogue newsletter. Gensler is one of the largest architects in the world. Well, Jim, I can't compete with Gensler. I've only got 5 people in my office. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's your attitude, this is the wrong webinar, because I'm telling you right now, with research and the internet, a 5-person firm can outgun Gensler. I'm telling you right now. What does it take to outgun a Gensler? And I love Gensler. I get a lot of great information from them. But what does it take for a small company to beat a big company? Knowledge, unduplicated knowledge, which has been one of the pillars of Interline for a long time, since 30 years ago. I realized very early, I got to know something you don't in order for you to hire me. That's true of everything. Your product has to behave in a certain way that other products don't. That's why you buy the product. And it's up to all of us to really convey that information. And you get that information from researching people. You talk to people, you poll people, you find out what it is about people, what it is about this product that really, really rocks. And that becomes your differentiation. So since we're not math formulas, sometimes it's just nice to break things. We behave in different ways. We believe people make choices. Choices are made because people make them, not because chemicals in their brain tell them to make them, not because a brand tells you to make them, not because advertising shoves enough messages in your brain for you to do that. You make them now because this is the age of the customer and you are the educated consumers. Your customers are educating themselves daily, daily. So why not help them become a teacher? That's what research can do for you. For example, RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. This is a trick everyone can use on their file. What do you use this on? Your customer file. Recency, frequency, monetary asks, why do people buy recently? Who are the people? Why do they buy frequently from you? And who's the highest, what do they buy from you that represent the highest monetary value in your revenue stream? Each of these segments offers different things. So you take your customer file, you put it in an Excel sheet, and you look at it. If you have 100 customers, if you have 200 customers, if you have 10,000 customers, it's the same way, and you have to know Excel. These are the fields you need. And then you start asking the database. It's like going to the Wizard of Oz. Oh, Oz, you remember the guy behind the curtain? He was the Wizard of Oz, but it was just the guy behind the curtain. The database is like the Wizard of Oz. You go to the database and say, oh, database, who is my most frequent customer? Who comes to me more often than anyone else? And ask yourself if you can increase that frequency or is it a one and done? If you say I can't increase the frequency, I've sold him my product, that assumes the person has no friends, that assumes the person will never move. So frequently, customers who are frequent in your sort, when you can identify the top 10 frequent customers, have something in common. It's up to research to find out what they have in common. And I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, that time, which I told you is really the only currency, is not relevant in all of this. Because the most frequent customer also delivers when you sort that file. The most infrequent customer, the customer who hasn't bought from you in perhaps 10 years. I've got plenty of stories about that. We used to use this pre-COVID and still use it now. You go to your customer file and you take that bottom 10 people who haven't bought from you in 10 years and you hit that file, you're going to be rewarded with remarkable discoveries. You know what some of the discoveries are? Why didn't you call me sooner? I just bought your product. Holy mackerel, it's great to hear from you. I'm serious. We got a piece of business that I haven't talked to a person in 10 years. They were talking to somebody and they said, call Interline. This happened during COVID. During COVID. I hadn't talked to this person in 10 years, right? Met this person at a trade show 10 years ago. The referral came in during COVID. You never know what's going on until you start talking to people and doing this. You should always ask for a response. Monetary and recency are the same type of sorts. When you sort by the people who gave you the most money, they have certain things in common too. Did they buy this service from you? Did they buy that product from you? How often does that happen in your file? The whole pricing thing, people worry about price. Well, Jim, in fact, today, one of our clients just said his strategy is he's not going to raise his price. This is a major manufacturer. He's not going to raise his price. We applauded that. You know why? Because everyone else is raising their price. And why are they raising their prices? Well, because look at the supply chain. I can't get the parts. I've got, they panic, right? That's not, you know what? When everybody's going north, you should go south maybe. And that's what this manufacturer is going to do. And he's going to be rewarded by remarkable discoveries. Because any reaction to a price is it's too much, it's right, or is that all? And you don't know that till you do price testing, price research, which we've done tons of these problems. And hit your dead file. By the way, if you Google never lower your price, don't do it now, ladies and gentlemen. But if you Google that, you're going to find the Interline blog, never lower your prices, on page 1. And you should never lower your price. Hatch your strategy. How often should you contact your people? How often will you contact them? What tactic will you use? What are your expectations? You have to use email, phone, mail, virtual, online, and use technology to do this. And by contact, I mean researching them, asking them questions, finding out what their needs are. If you're not selling, you have to be paving the way to sell. Should I repeat that? If you're not selling, you have to be paving the way to sell. Zip codes. Have you ever done zip code analysis? Research? All your customers have zip codes. Your zip codes, you can go to the IRS, this is a public website, and you can look at quote unquote zip codes and their income levels. I encourage you to do something like this. This is a free database from the IRS. It tells you the profile of the zip codes you're marketing to. You can actually look at this and see, well, I've sold one customer in that zip code and their median income is $200,000 or more. Oh, maybe there are more. Maybe I should do a mailing. Maybe I should get their email addresses and poll them. Maybe they need this type of product. And these zip code data are by individual states. This is free, courtesy of the government. You can do social media research. You can hop on any channel, Facebook, Twitter. Jim, are you encouraging us to use social media? I am, for research. You know what you do on social media? You don't talk. Don't talk. Listen. Listen to what people, well, Jim, I have one engineer who says it's going to be the death of the world because there's a lot of BS on there, right? And I asked him quite frankly, and he's an engineer, quite educated, do you think there was BS before social media? He says, yeah, but you couldn't see it. Just because you see it doesn't mean you have to pay attention to it, does it? Especially if you know it's BS, right? Listen to social media. They talk all the time, and it's absolutely, sometimes it's very profound, sometimes it's not. And there are tools there to find out, for example, what's going on with the virus, right? Which is now being controlled by these media channels, and you're limited, right? But for your product, LinkedIn is a great professional channel, and you should use it. You should use LinkedIn to listen to people, watch people, listen to the posts. Here's your rules of engagement. How intimately do you know your competitors and customers? How closely do you really know what they're doing? And I'm going to tell you the answer is you probably don't. You may think you do, but you don't. Why? Because things change. What was true yesterday is not true today. What was true yesterday will not be true tomorrow. You have to continually measure what you believe you know against the reality of what is going on. And actions always speak louder than words. So don't just listen to the talk. Don't just listen to Nowakowski's words today. Look at the websites. Examine what's being done in marketing today. There's plenty of information out there. Oh, wait a minute, Jim. Are you suggesting that we believe everything on the internet? No. But use your own compass. Erase your blackboard. Use your common sense. And listen to people. And listen to all opinions. There's a recent blog I wrote on I asked the question, what is the biggest challenge businesses face today? You can ask Google that question. And you get a ton of answers. Here's the 8 things, here's the 9 things, here's the 33 things, because the people who wrote those blogs know that if you put a number in your headline, remember the headline's the most important thing, that Google will pick it up and put it on page 1 eventually, and enough people click on it, right? So I gathered all that data, I built a database, I standardized all the things that people say were the biggest challenges. And guess what? They missed the most important challenge, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. I categorized all of them, and I wrote a blog called The 77 Challenges Boiled Down to One. You can read it on our website. Eventually, it's going to be on page 1, I assure you. It just takes time to get up there with your SEO. You need the right information at the right time. You got to be in the right place, delivered in the right way, by the right contact to the right person. And ladies and gentlemen, quite frankly, that's why you have to be researching all the time. You cannot stop researching. I'm researching right now. I'm watching my dashboard. I'm listening to you. Yes, I'm listening to you. And you know what I hear you saying? Nothing, because there's no questions. I'm kidding. Some of you are paying attention. Some of you are saying, what the hell is he talking about? That's okay. I learned a long time ago, you can't please everyone. But what I'm telling you today is that the essence of this webinar is to start researching constantly and adjusting your own vision. For example, a lot of times you can't get people to make a decision. If you ever read Hamlet, Hamlet is the essence of a guy who can't make a decision. And in the end, if you can't make a decision, it's always going to be tragic. So you're going to have to make a decision. So how do you get people to make a decision? Okay. Whether a product is being sold as intangible like insurance or something else, the psychology of closing doesn't vary. The body of the interview, the sale has been promoted by a combination of logical arguments and the building up of confidence in you and in everything you represent. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, selling is personal. You don't buy a flush valve, you don't buy a faucet, you don't buy an architectural rendering. You buy the person behind it. You buy the brand. Your company, your service, your integrity, logic alone is not enough. Elmer Letterman, one of the great, insurance guys who invented group insurance, wrote this many years ago in a book called The Sales Begins When the Customer Says No. I encourage you to read it if you can find it. It's out of print. It's out of print. I have several copies here in my office. If I see them on Amazon, I scoop them up. Yes, I'm a hoarder. No, I'm kidding. Logic alone is not enough. And why is that? Could anyone answer that question? I have a $5 Starbucks card in my pocket, ready to tell you if you put the answer to that question. Why is logic? I gave you the answers several times in here. And it's got to be my words from this webinar. Logic is not enough to make a sale. Put that answer in that question box or in the chat room. Okay, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to wait. The answer to I'm not going to tell you the answer. I've always proceeded on the theory emotions stimulate action, says Elmer, right? Emotion, right? That's not the answer to the question, by the way. All right, the answer to the question is man is not a math formula. He's not. He's emotional. If man was a math formula, everyone in the audience would be rich playing the stock market because it would be logical. There's no logic to the stock market. None. The only logic is you try to buy companies of value, right? And stick with them over thick and thin. So you want to dig deep into the wallet, right? Is a step that requires emotion. And getting people to pull a trigger is a blog I wrote about it. So who are your customers? What and how what are they buying now? How are they buying it? Why do they buy it? What will make them buy it from you? What are you going to do? Well, Jim, I've been doing this for many years and this is the way I do it. Great. But it doesn't seem to be working now, does it? Well, it works good enough. If good enough is what you want, don't listen to anything we're talking about today. If you want better than good enough, you better start talking to your customers in ways that you can understand what the profound change is in this move to the digital highway. I'm telling you right now. Really, it's really a gift for all of us, the digital highway, because it equalizes you to a large company. Only large companies could do this before. And I'll give you an example that happened during the pandemic. Only large retailers survived. Amazon, Target, Walmart. Those big companies survived because they got almost an exemption from the government, didn't they? And the rest of us had to suffer as smaller businesses. We didn't know what to do. So you had strategies, and my compliments to you if you're still standing. You're still standing because you innovative. You anticipated and reacted, and you got to keep trying. But you have to try in a digital way. So get busy. Put a question on your website. Send out a short survey to your customers. Make some phone calls. Every phone call I make is a research phone call. What are you talking about? Every phone call I make, whether it's finding out a new number, whether I'm going to do a blog recently. I was trying to we're doing a new business campaign for a certain product category for ourselves. And I'm making phone calls, we're sending emails, we're doing research. We do all sorts of things to integrate to try and start talking to the right people. We're using LinkedIn. I get LinkedIn, connections like that, believe it or not. So it's an integrated strategy. But when I picked up the phone yesterday to start the phone call follow-up, I was rewarded by amazing nonsense. And yet, one or two people answered that phone. I could, you trick it in the call systems. And when I blog about this, I'll let you know if you're interested. Because it's amazing to me, all the business that could be had that's not being had because people don't understand the necessity to talk to people. I don't want to talk to a robot answering machine. You've got these telemarketer calls at night. Hi, this is Sandy. And you think you're talking, it's a robot, right? It's a robot. Who would talk to a robot? Maybe in the future, but not now. So tap if you're an architect, manufacturers are doing research continually. Tap that research and share it with your customers. If you're a manufacturer, tap your sales reps for information, right? One of the things I just sent out this morning to my clients is a research report that says you shouldn't believe what's in this research report. Why? Because it doesn't factor with what we're seeing going on. You're right. But you may believe it, and that's okay. That's your right. But you should question it. And the way we suggested to our clients to question it is to tap their sales rep organizations. See what the sales reps are saying. Besides making excuses that nobody's buying anything, find out from your sales reps what's really going on. And if you really want to know, the best way to do research is get out of that office and go into the field yourself. There is nothing like firsthand knowledge when you go yourself into a showroom, into a building. There's nothing like it. Nothing. It's firsthand knowledge, and it really opens your eyes. That's the amazing part about research. Questions? I'm warm. I'm standing up. I took my suit coat off. I'm ready for questions. Let's see if we got any questions. What time is it? We've got plenty of time for questions. Let's see here. What do we got here? Benjamin wants to know about secret shoppers. Okay, Benjamin, great question. There's plenty of, if you Google secret shopper organizations, you'll find that out. But what I'm suggesting to you respectfully, Ben, is that you yourself can go and become a secret shopper. Let's take, for example, an architect. An architect, you're not an architect, by the way, I can see that. But that's why I chose architect, because you're not one. If you're an architect and you're going to do a commercial building, and commercial buildings today are in flux, right? They can't rent it because people still don't know if they're coming back. They're coming back in what they call a hybrid model, blah, 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 blah. You should go to a commercial building and see for yourself what's going on. What is going on in commercial buildings? There's plenty of commercial buildings around where you live. So I would go in there, if you were an architect, and start going in there and seeing the protocols being followed. What are the protocols? How many signs do you see when you walk into a commercial building that are still, if there's a restaurant, for example, do they post their hours or are they still closed? I walked into a commercial building that was connected to the West End recently, and as you walk down the aisle, you can see some businesses are carefully opening. Medical centers, like a dentist, are still wearing masks, others are not. But in the Westin Hotel itself, I was counting people who wear masks and counting people who don't. From the time the COVID hit till the time, because my wife goes to this place for dentistry and I always observe, it's amazing how many people now have switched to no masks. Some still wear masks, others don't. And it's amazing when you see that conflict, what's going on, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean for your business? Well, what it means for me is I'm documenting that, and one of the first things I would do for a client is, you want me to wear a mask or not if I come to your office? That's the first question you ask. You want a mask or not? And you got to be flexible, right? You don't make a judgment call. Let's see, any other questions? I'm looking. Great question, Jill. How many questions should you have in a survey? You know what, Jill? I'm going to send you a Starbucks card for that question. You know why? Because that's the perfect question for this research. Before COVID, it started deteriorating before COVID. How many questions can you ask? Some of our clients demand like many, many, many questions, and that really bogs down the research. So people's attention spans today are less and less. So we're recommending lately less questions, but more research opportunities rather than one big long piece of research. People just don't have the time to spend on 20 questions. You know you're that yourself when you get questions after you buy something, you get a survey. How was our experience? If you have a bad experience and you document that and you go back and you get another survey, how was our experience? You realize they didn't really listen to you the first time when you told them about your bad experience. And that's part of the problem. We deal with big organizations. There's one big organization that I'm not going to mention any names. That's horrible to deal with. Every time we deal with this organization for our employees simple plan, it's difficult. It's difficult. You never talk to the right people, ever. Until recently when I got a call from the right person. After seven tries over the years, which always fail and result in a bunch of things. Anyway, any other questions? Thank you, Jill. I don't see any other questions. Are you sure? All right. So if you have questions afterwards about this webinar, I'd like you to contact me at jim@interlinegroup.com. That's my email. I answer all my emails, unless they happen to go to spam, which I don't think they will. You can call me at 847-358-4848, 847-358-4848. You can go to Evaluate, and I'll send you a set of our guides about this webinar. You can follow me on Twitter, and our next research will be September 14th. This is one of my research is one of my favorites, but strategic planning on September 14th at 10 o'clock is one of my personal favorites. It really is. Strategic planning. If you're not doing strategy, you're not doing, period. And then we have a few more that are not up here yet. We just redid the one on public relations, which will be in November. Our webinars are also online and available for online credit. So I know some of the architects that registered are not in the audience. We'll send them a reminder that you can get these on our website online. Twitter is very important to me. I've loved Twitter since it was invented, maybe not so much now, but I still use Twitter to communicate, so please follow me. And if you don't follow me, that's okay too. Thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed presenting to you. I hope you took away a few to-dos from this, and please email me, and thank you very much. By the way, if you do want a copy of the presentation, send me an email and I'll PDF it to you. Thank you very much.